أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين رضي الله تعالى عنه وعن كافة المؤمنين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Inshallah, this series is entitled Family Matters. Obviously, there are two ways to understand that term. Family matters, as in family is important. And then family matters, as in issues and masail, mashakil, family matters, issues and problems in the family. So, by that title, both are meant. And the subtitle, Lessons for Keeping a Happy Home in Islam. We're going to discuss just one hadith. But wallahu alam, I believe personally that this hadith is really inclusive of all, or at least the overwhelming majority, but definitely I would say, in my humble opinion, all of the most important aspects relating to family matters and solutions for family matters. I want to begin by reference. This hadith is the text that I'm reading from is the famous text written by the great hadith scholar Imam al-Tirmidhi. All of you have heard of Imam al-Tirmidhi, Sunan al-Tirmidhi. Imam al-Tirmidhi, who died in the year 279. His text, Shama'il al-Muhammadiyah. Shama'il, the characteristics, the ever-inclusive, beautiful characteristics of the Prophet ﷺ. So the text that I'm reading from is this hadith that's collected in this text here. But this hadith is also recorded in the famous collections of Bukhari and Muslim. Interestingly enough, not in the chapter on nikah or marriage, but it's in the chapter of fada'il, virtue is character. The narrator of this hadith is the Prophet's beloved wife, our dear mother Aisha. May Allah Ta'ala be pleased with her, radiyallahu ta'ala anha. And from her, it went to a Sahaba whose name was Abdullah ibn Arwa. And Abdullah ibn Arwa, now this is the same isnad that's in Bukhari and Muslim and in Tirmidhi. It's the same. From Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha to Abdullah ibn Arwa. And then he tells, so Aisha narrates that to Abdullah radiallahu ta'ala anhuma. He tells his brother. His brother, Hisham ibn Arwa. So Hisham is the one that then makes this hadith popular and spreads it. Tells it to a lot of people. So all of the asanid, all of them go back to Hisham, to his brother Abdullah, to Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha. It's a long hadith, but it's very beautiful. And so it goes like this. Bismillah. Yeah, if you could, because I may forget to. It's called the hadith of Zara. Amongst the muhaddithun, the hadith of Zara. That's sort of the colloquial name. And the hadith of Zara occurs, it's a hadith, but it's a story about these 11 women. And this event with these 11 women takes place before Islam. It takes place in Jahiliyyah. We don't know whether or not it took place while the Prophet ﷺ was living as a young man or not. But we know the event was an event that happened in Jahiliyyah. So Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha heard this story from someone else because she simply wasn't alive in the period of Jahiliyyah. So she heard it from someone else, and then she asked the Prophet ﷺ to sit down. She asks him to sit down because she wants to tell him something. So he sallallahu alaihi wasallam sits down and he listens. And this is what she has to say. So the entire hadith is a story by our mother, Aisha, may Allah Ta'ala be pleased with her, radiyallahu ta'ala anha, to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And as we are listening to this, these are the words that Aisha said to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, radiyallahu ta'ala anha. And at the end, he sallallahu alaihi wasallam stays quiet until the end of the hadith. So we are not going to actually get the words from the Prophet ﷺ until next week. The hadith starts off with the words of Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha. And this hadith is taught by many of the scholars, and I learned it from my great teacher who gave me permission to narrate it and to teach it as well. And it's a hadith that is taught to students of ilm and to people and shared with people to advise them on how to deal with their spouses in a beautiful way, and to observe the challenges that are in marital relationships and how to learn from those problems. Even if we don't have challenges, and I don't know of marriage that is free from everything, but even if Allah Ta'ala has blessed our relationships to be, for the most part, very stable, alhamdulillah, this hadith and the advice here is still beneficial for the next generation that wants to get married. So maybe we have sons and daughters. It's still a beautiful hadith to share with them. The advice from it is still beautiful. And so, the text begins from Aisha radiyallahu ta'ala anha. She says, and I'll read it in Arabic, and the English translation is up there. And if anyone wants a copy of the Arabic, I'll try to scan this, inshallah ta'ala. I know the English copy, there's some extra copies on the sister side, some from the brothers, not a lot. But I know there's electronic, it's available electronically as well. And the same thing for if anyone wants Arabic copies. I did not make a copy of the Arabic text, but I'd be more than happy to make a copy of the Arabic text if you'd like a copy of it, inshallah ta'ala, or at least we can make it electronically, inshallah. So it begins. An Aisha radiyallahu ta'ala anha قالت جلست 11 امرأة 11 women sat down. فتعاهدنا, and they all made an ahd. What's an ahd? A compact, right? A pact, right? An agreement. وتعاقدنا, and they all made an aqd, a contract. And لا يكتمن من أزواجهن شيئا. They made a promise, they made a commitment that they would not keep any secrets about their husbands on that night. These 11 women sat together and they said, okay, one by one we're going to mention something about our azwaj, our husbands, our spouses. And we're not going to deny, we're not going to conceal anything. What's important for this part is two things. One, in this hadith, none of the names of the husbands are mentioned. So this is not ghiba. This is not backbiting. The Prophet ﷺ, hasha, is not sitting down listening to ghiba, because we don't know who their husbands are. Two, they agreed, each one of them committed to be truthful and to fulfill the covenant of conveying some kind of information. So that's going in, that's what they all sat down and agreed to. And la yaktibna, katman is to conceal something, to hide something. So they made a pact, an aqd, not to do katman, not to hide or conceal anything. Okay. About their min akhbari azwajihinna shay'an, from the information or details about their husbands. فقالت الأولى. So the first woman, she says, زوجي, my husband, لحم جمل غث. My husband is like insufficient camel's meat. He's like not enough or tough camel's meat. على رأس جبل وعر. And it's on top of a rocky mountain. لا سهل فيرتقى ولا سمين فينتقل. It's neither fat meat that can carry you long distances and keep you nourished. لا سمين لا سهل عفوا لا سهل فيرتقى. It's not an easy hill or mountain, actually, Jabal. It's not an easy mountain to climb. My husband's like this mountain. It's not an easy mountain to climb. وَلَا سَمِينٌ فَيُنْتَقَلْ. And there's not a lot of meat there or fat there to keep you going throughout the climb. This is what the first one says. Not enough fat, nor is it enough fat to sustain you. What is she saying about her husband? A few things in this parable. All of the women, generally speaking, except for a few, most of them use cryptic language. Part of it is to allow the imagination to journey, either in a good way or in a bad way. Sometimes some of the women use cryptic and descriptive language because it's the most beautiful way of describing the character trait, the majaz. Sometimes it's used to keep you guessing. Is she making a compliment or is she criticizing? Sometimes it's like that when we get to the later ones. But in this particular case, the first one, she's being critical. There's a criticism here that we must learn about. So the first thing is that she says that he's like this camel's meat that's inadequate, that's on top of this mountain. The analogy of the mountain is important. One, this camel's meat on top of the mountain, not in the middle, not at the bottom to sustain you. You have to do a lot of work, exert a lot of effort, tire yourself, get yourself hot and sweaty and fatigued just to get to the top of this mountain, to get this meat that's not enough for you. So it's like working overtime and the money you get still doesn't pay the bills. That's her husband. That's what dealing with her husband is like. It's a criticism of access, number one, that her husband is not really accessible. He's hard to reach. He's in the house with her, but he's so tough to reach. And when she finally reaches him, what she takes in terms of benefit is not enough to get her down the hill or get her through whatever she's going through. This is also a metaphor for the fact that this is the process for the family. That dealing with the man in the house, or in her case her husband, is an extremely difficult task. Sometimes it may not be the husband, sometimes it can be the wife. But the context of the hadith is that these are all women talking about their husbands. But these criticisms could also be applicable on the reverse side as well. So the point is that there's a spouse in the home whose situation is whose heart is so tough, or their emotions are so cold that they're so tough to deal with. You live with them, but they're so distant. And when you finally tap in, that one day, that one moment, when you finally reach something, what you extract is not enough to get you to the next day. That's not a good characteristic. There's another way to look at this as well, the ulama say. The analogy, the metaphor of the jabal, the mountain, the meat that's on the mountain. The mountain could be the man himself, or the spouse themselves, could be a woman, wife, the spouse themselves, who is arrogant in the home. They think, I pay the bills. I do this. That's it. So because of their arrogance, they are difficult to reach. The other thing is that the reference is to climbing the mountain. لا سهل فيرتقى. يرتقى from Yurtaqa is to ascend, is to go up, is to climb something. So the mountain is rocky. And if you've ever tried to climb a mountain that's rocky, it's a risk. Every step you take is risky. You could get injured. You could twist your leg, you could fall, break a bone. At every step of the way, there's a risk that you're taking. So first, the understanding is that man or that woman, that spouse who's like that jabal in the home, that jabal doesn't go to anybody. You have to go to the jabal. Right? You want something, you have to come to me. You have to apologize. Right? I'm not going to apologize to you. I do this and I do that. You apologize. I'm the jabal. Right? You have to come to me. All permission comes from me. Nothing happens in this home. Nothing. Right? Jabbar. Then, every step of the way there's a risk. When you ask for milk, there's a risk. You ask for money, there's a risk. You ask for extra time, there's a risk. When you ask to do that, there's a risk. You're taking a risk. Simple things that should be simple in the home. Simple questions, simple encounters become risk-taking endeavors. This is a criticism. And so because of that risk, even if they get the meat, it's not beneficial, so khalas. It's not worth it. It's not worth the effort. It's not worth the risk. I'm not going to talk to dad. I'm not going to talk to mom. I'm not going to talk to my husband. I'm not going to talk to my wife. It's not worth the risk. Khalas. Communication shuts down. So the spouse doesn't fulfill, that spouse that's that jabal, does not fulfill the basic needs in the family. Although they might be working and paying bills and contributing to the bills, but paying bills is not the same as meeting a need. Paying bills is not cooking dinner, washing clothes, repairing the home, going to them. It's not the same as meeting an emotional need, is the point I'm trying to say. It's more to it than that. So we have to reflect. Are we jabals in the home? When our spouses deal with us, are we only giving inadequate camel's meat? This is the first one. قالت الثانية. The second woman, she says, زوجي, my husband, لا أبث خبره. I can't spread any news about him. Now she's just committed to this deal, so she's trying to get out of it, but then she remembers, I can't spread the news of my husband. Why? It's not because she's trying to get out. إني أخاف أن لا أذره. Because I'm afraid that if I start, we're not going to get out of here by midnight. And we all have got to be home to our husbands that we're talking about. If I start, we'll be here till Fajr. This is why I can't commit. I've committed, but then I realize there's so much stuff. إني إن أذكره, if I start talking, أذكر عجره وبجره. I'll just mention all of his defects, ظاهرا and باطنا, inwardly and outwardly. I have to go on because everything's connected. And it's just such a string of disaster. We'll be here until Fajr. That's what she says. I fear that if I begin, I shall never end. And if I mention something, I will have to mention every single fault of his, both external. أذكر عجره وبجره. I'll mention his external. I have to mention external things, what he looks like, what he smells like, etc., how he treats me, and internal things, because all of those are just furu' extensions of his internal state. So he treats me bad because he treats himself bad. Method, for example. The dars that we take from this to think about is this question, as our teacher said. What do our family members have to say about us? If our wives, if our husbands, if our kids had to write books about us, if they had to discuss our character and who we are with somebody else, and we would never learn about it. That's the thing. Because these men don't know we're talking about them today. Right? Subhanallah. So we would never learn about it. What would our wives, for example, or our husbands, have to say about us? Now the key to that is, what do we want to be said about us? What kind of husband, when we get married, particularly our young brothers that are perhaps thinking to get married or planning to get married, or one day, inshallah ta'ala, you get married, your father will sit you down, maybe your mom will sit you down, young sisters, same thing. When you're about to get married, say, what do you want in a husband? Right? What do you want in a wife? What do you want? That's the common question. But at this level, we have to think about, what do we want to be? What kind of husband should we be is one thing, but what kind of husband do we want to be is another thing. So like if I want to be an excellent physician, I want to be an excellent engineer, I want to be an excellent car salesman, then I'm going to work hard to achieve that excellence. The problem that we have as individuals is this, and this is what kind of brings this out. This is our defect, that we work for excellence in our workplace, but we have lower standards in our homes in terms of individual standards. We have performance reviews in the workplace with our superiors, most of us, do we not? Do we not? Even I'm reviewed, even me. Shoulder members sit down, you did this correct, you did this, community saying this, community, you need to do this, you need to tweak this. There's always room for improvement. That's a good thing. That assessment, when somebody sits in front of you at the job, that's a great thing. But we also have and need performance reviews at home. Now the question is our home life conducive to that kind of critique and analysis? Do we as men, husbands, do we as women, wives, do we contribute to the proper environment that allows our spouse to say, listen, I need to talk to you. You did this wrong. I love you, dear, but you made a mistake. You have to correct. No, I understand. You're wrong. Make tawbah. Go apologize. Go do this. Go do that. You have to criticize each other, and we have to be willing to accept it. And the critical person must criticize us with the eye of hubb, with the bab, from the bab of nasiha, real advice, ad-deen nasiha. So it can't be that we just espouse, because our spouses it's the only person on the planet that know, your husbands and your wives are the only ones that know you in and out. All of the good things they know and all of the bad things they know. So they are the most appropriate person to do critical analysis of you. They are the most important person to help you get to Jannah. And so if that spouse, think of it like this, if you as a spouse see something in your mate that you know is wrong, and you have the ability to say something and you don't, and that thing becomes a habit of your spouse that you know is wrong, that's not just a problem for the spouse, it's a problem for you too for not saying something. Because you as a spouse, if you love your spouse, you don't want them to meet Allah like that. And the spouse is a representative of you, and you are a representative of your spouse. You all are mirrors of each other. لِبَاسٌ لَكُمْ وَأَنْتُمْ لِبَاسٌ لَهُنَّ. So you can't keep silent like this lady's situation is saying, I can't speak because there's too many things. Well, the question is, well, how did it get like that in the first place? Because of silence also. Sometimes, and many times, silence is not the best medicine. You have to speak in your relationships. You just can't keep things. And we'll talk about how to do that later on. It comes later on in the text. قالت الثالثة. The third woman, she says, wow. زوجي, this is what she says. زوجي العشنق. This is old Meccan Fusha. These words are tough. Even you look this up in the dictionary, it's not going to produce many definitions. Al-Ashannaq. My husband is, this is the Arabic, she calls him the Ashannaq. My husband is Ashannaq. It even sounds kind of insulting, you know. Ashannaq is the man that's tall, or in other definitions, he could be like a big guy, muscular guy, but no brains. Imbecile. He's great for getting things off the top shelf. But that's it. You try to dunk in basketball, he's excellent. But to try to get him to buy a basketball, or what is a basketball, or to talk about the rules of basketball, you know, Fred Flintstone, whatever, you know, Stoneman, Caveman, Ashannaq, no brains. Yani, subhanallah, I used to have a student who came to me and he used to say, you know, Imam Khalil, I have a question, please, you know, why does, he said, if you know, allow me, he said, why does Allah give, forgive me, stupid people money? You know, I said, what do you mean? He said, so many people have money, millionaires a bit, and they're not the brightest person. I said, that's because they need that protection. You know, they need that protection. Allah Ta'ala gives them that much money to protect themselves. You know, so some people, Allah Ta'ala makes them tall, makes them strong, makes them useful in one way, but they're challenging in other ways. So this woman's criticism is, you know, he's got physical uses. He's very tall, very strong, طويل جدا, عظيم الجسد, but he's not the smartest person. She's not just criticizing his intelligence in terms of IQ. That's not what she's doing, even though I started like that. What she means by the fact that he's not intelligent, has no brains, means he has no idea how to deal with her. No clue. Completely brainless about how to deal with her as a wife. He's got other uses. He's great in other things. He might have a PhD and etc. and so excels in so many things, but is absolutely horrible at dealing with a woman. Method. And you can have women like that as well. Very successful, very educated, absolutely horrible at dealing with a husband. So how could you be a brain surgeon and you have no idea how to deal with your family? Method, for example. In antiq utallaq, she says, if I speak, I'm divorced. Wa in askut u'allaq. And if I'm silent, I'm left hanging, she says. If I try to speak my mind and express myself, gone. Caveman mentality. You know. Done. No rules. No. Very intelligent outside the home, takes advice, listens to other men, listens to other women. Excellent. In the home, my way or the highway. You don't like it, go leave. Goodbye. You don't like it, pack your bags. If I speak. Honey, can I... Excuse me? What? You see the luggage over there? It's got your name on it. That's it. Well, in Eskut, if I'm silent, so many problems are there, I'm left hanging. I don't know what to do. If I go to the Imam, I'm divorced. If I'm silent, the bills aren't paid. If I'm silent, I'm depressed. The difference between this woman and the other one who said, I can't speak because if I start talking, it'll go on and on and on. That woman, the second woman, at least in her home, she could talk to her husband. But she refused, for several reasons, not to externalize that to the group. She externalized to the group that there were so many problems at home, I can't explain it to you, she said. This lady's different. This lady's situation is the opposite. That her home life is not conducive for conversation. Not even conversation. There's no freedom of expression at all. Which is actually a very severe, even a shari'i crime, if you will. Crime is in the state sense, but error, shari'i error in the house. The house has to be a place where there is the ultimate level of freedom of expression has to exist there. Because when the wife, for example, when you and your children leave the house, there are rules that limit that expression. So verbally there should be a climate where you're free to express how you feel. With, of course, adab is there, but the feeling that I'm left hanging. If I speak, I'm divorced. If I speak, he always criticizes me, or she always criticizes me. That climate is destructive. And so, what we want to understand is what is it in our relationships that contributes to one mate or one spouse feeling that they cannot express themselves. What is it that I'm doing that's preventing my spouse, my mate, from expressing themselves or even feeling like they can't do that? And if we find that out, then that is the key to unlocking other problems. Because once a person can express what their trouble is, how they're feeling, then we have the responsibility to listen. That's like the Prophet. Remember the Prophet ﷺ, and that's the biggest dars. One of my teachers said, this is the biggest dars. That he didn't say, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, oh, this is stuff that happened in Jahiliyyah. I don't have time for this. Wahy's coming in 10 minutes. And I've got the Jamaat here, and we've got like people trying to attack Medina that's on their way, and this, that. No, he, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, sat with her, and he listened to this stuff. So if he listened to this, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this is an indication that he listened to his spouses. We have to listen as well. One of my teachers said that the ulama say that the chit-chat, look at this, the chit-chat between spouses, has the same rutbah as speaking the truth and advising someone to khair outside of the home. SubhanAllah. Why? Because the chit-chat between spouses contributes to the healthiness and the well-being of the relationship. It's not just chit-chat. It's not just it's chit-chat if I'm talking with a brother, how's the method, and how's this, and how's the game, and how's the weather. That's chit-chat. But with the wife, with the husband, there's no such thing as chit-chat. Those small details are actually part of the bigger picture of keeping a healthy relationship alive. That's very important to understand. There's no such thing as useless talk. Laghu in the Shari definition, vain talk, talk with no benefit, useless talk. That does not exist in the fiqh between husbands and wives. Even if you don't have to just spend your time talking about bills and community and masjid and things like any kind of, as long as it's not lies and criticism and name calling and haram things, anything is khair. What do you want tonight for dinner? Don't bother me. Ya subhanallah. Should we have blue curtains or pink? Blue or pink? What did the Prophet have when he had? Did he have curtains? Yes. Yes, he had curtains. It might not have been blue or pink, but talk to your wife about curtains. You want non-Muslims looking in? Those things which are meaningful. Meaningful. So we oftentimes, some of us err because we see something as meaningless. But what we see as meaningless actually has a profound value. So this is the point here, that certain things, there's a climate of silence in the home that is very destructive. We should be avid and rapid and extreme conversationalists with our spouses. Extreme conversationalists with our spouses. قالت الرابعة. This one's beautiful. This one's beautiful. زوجي كليل التهامة. كليل التهامة is like the layl, the night of a place in Mecca, in the surrounding jiwar of Mecca, called Tihama. Zawji kalayl Tihama. My husband's like the night of Tihama. Tihama is a mountainous region. First of all, Mecca is full of mountains, but right behind it is Tihama. And it includes like these mountainous areas which also have caves. Right? And Tihama is known for its really serene and beautiful and calm and peaceful nights. You know, it's not too cold, not hot, lovely breezes. So she's saying, my husband's like the night of Tihama. La harrun wa la qarrun. Neither too hot nor too cold. La makhafa wa la sa'ama. I neither fear him nor do I get bored with him. Subhanallah. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Now, some of the statements of the ulama and reflections are like this. That the night of Tihama is neither too hot, neither too cold. So what does that mean? It's what? It's in the middle. Moderation. Moderation. The first lesson. Moderation. My father, Allah yarhamahu, used to say, son, moderation in everything, including moderation. Sometimes you have to be a little extreme. Sometimes you spend a little extra money. Sometimes you hold back a little bit. But the standard, moderation. Moderation, in general, is the best rule. When in doubt, be in the middle. We are Ummat Wasat. We are a middle nation. When in doubt, if you don't know, you and your wife are discussing what to do, and you have a way to, they have a problem and you're trying to solve it. Solution A is too extreme to the right. Solution B too extreme to the left. Moderation. Pick the middle one. Driving. Honey, where are you going? This is the long way. Now I'm going this way. No, this is not a shortcut. No, it's a shortcut. No, it's too long. Khalas. Don't worry about moderation. Let's go a third route. Middle route. Not too long, not too short. La harrun wa la qarrun. Harrun and qarrun here have different meanings. Neither too hot nor too cold. One, he's neither too hot, meaning in temperament. He doesn't get too angry. And he doesn't get angry too fast. Some people, Subhanallah, you just... The one parent yelling, screaming all the time, and they're so hot, they're so angry, they yell and scream so much that becomes the norm. Oh, there's Dad again. Let's just go into that. It's Monday. Every Tuesday, he's like that. Oh, there's Mom again. On Thursdays, that's it. You don't want a reputation of being hot. There's also hot in the tongue as well. In the Arabic language, hot in the tongue. Meaning, what you say, your words can be, we say in English, your words can be like acid. They can burn. So critical, so mean, so sharp, hot tongue. Quick, mean, okay. You say bad things. La haram. The husband's not like that. Doesn't use his tongue to burn the family, to harm the family, to hurt. So his nature is not hurtful in general, and his lisan, his tongue, is not hot, doesn't burn, doesn't criticize in general. It might happen sometimes because we're human, but he's like Layla Tihami, he's moderate. The usual, the norm, Dad is not like that. Once a year, maybe twice a year, okay. But the norm, no. Everybody has mistakes. That's not the norm. He's not so jabbar tough, but not qarrun. He's not too weak either. Not so tough, but hard, but not too cold. Too cold. Har, afwan. Har also means always involved and present. Always in the business, scrutinizing. Give me your phone. Let me see who you're calling. Let me see your checking account. How much money you 20 cents on what? Always looking, pinching pennies. Har. Criticize everything. Watching everything. Asking about everything. Har. It's like the sun that beats down on you and you just need a shade. So hot. Husband's all over you, breathing down your neck. Like a dragon or something, breathing fire, burning you up because of his surveillance, watching you, criticize, always angry, always fussing, and you can do nothing right now. Harun doesn't exist like that. Always involved. The sun is always beaming down. Wala qarrun. Qarrun means just distant. Like the sun is distant when it's cold. Qarrun means it's cold. Qurrata a'yun. A cool eye. In the wintertime, the sun is away from the earth. Qarrun, the husband's away from the family. So he's there, but Dad doesn't care about what you got on your report card. Doesn't care, that Mom doesn't care, and in-laws don't care. What do you want for dinner? I don't care. As long as there's food. You cook a food. What? Broccoli? What were you thinking? Why didn't you ask me what I wanted? Yes, subhanallah. Qarrun. Qarrun also neither too cold. It also means cold to the touch. He's not cold in the sense that the touch is cold, meaning affection is there. He hugs but doesn't mean it. Kisses but doesn't mean it. Yeah, something. Bye. I talk about this from time to time. There's these, you have brothers like this in the masjid. When you say salam, they don't care sometimes. Maybe they don't need it, but Afwan, Abu Hamza, they say salam alaikum. He says, so what happened to my head, man? I didn't sneeze and then come on, salam alaikum. Hold my hand. I had brothers like fingers. What happened? What? Qarrun, doesn't mean it. Touching, doesn't want to touch. Like you have leprosy or disease or something, or the Zika virus. Just Qarrun. Qarrun also, not too cold, means treatment. Obviously, in the real sense, cold treatment. Doesn't care. La qarrun. Not like he's not interested, but doesn't care. Qalbun qasi. Just doesn't care. The way he treats people. لا حر, neither too hot, ولا قر, and not too cold. ولا مخافة, I have no fear when I deal with him. Now this is really important. We must ask ourselves, do our wives fear us? Do our kids fear us? There should be no khawf in the house. Because the house is called the meskan, the place of, not just sakin, but the place of sakina also. Sakin and sakina is connected. So the house should be a place of comfort, not a place of fear. La makhafa, she says. I don't fear dealing with him. Some of the muhaddithun, they say what she means is that there's no fear when asking about her nafaqah, her provision. So if I need something to go to the store, or I need something from the store, I want to go out. There's no fear that there's going to be anything negative said or anything of that nature. No, faddal, ahlan, have fun, inshallah. Whatever you need, khalas. No fear. And also there's no fear from her about matters of affection. So she doesn't fear that he will stop being affectionate with her. She doesn't fear that he will stop hugging her, for example. Or he'll stop being interested in her as a wife. Or she doesn't fear that he's going to start looking someplace else. La makhafa. Wala sa'ama. And he never, there's no boredom. He's not bored with me. Right? So, it's not that I'm talking to him, oh, how my day went, let me tell you how my day went, and this, that, and the other, and he falls asleep, and everything she does, he puts her to sleep, and he's just, yes, I know, click, yeah, I'm listening, click, yeah, yeah, click, yeah. Oh, wait, hold on for a second. No sa'ama, no boredom. He doesn't feel bored. He doesn't get bored with me. It's not like, yes, this is my wife, and just like it's your T-shirt or something. This is my husband, the man with the beard. Boredom. You have to find opportunities in your relationship, in your marriages. Not really. I don't like that word. Marriages. To spice it up things, to liven up things, make things interesting. Go someplace new. Do something different. Change the way you look. I don't know, but shave your mustache. Wow, what'd you do? I shaved my mustache. It's a sunnah. You look different. I'm your new husband. Do something different. What'd you do? Oh, I changed my hair. Wow. Red. Subhanallah. Do something different. Do whatever it is. That's you and your partner for akhirah. Make it work. You've got to, because the life around you will tempt you with all kinds of things. And it's so easy to wake up and look at just over at the person you've been married to and say, I'm really bored with them. I'm not interested in. No, that's a human thing that many Muslims struggle with. We have crisis in our community. And when I say our community, I'm not talking about Plano. I'm talking about the Muslim community. We have crisis. So boredom, we have to prevent that from seeping in. Part of that has to do with not talking, not communicating with our spouses. What is the type of environment in the home? And always doing the same thing over and over again. And what happens is you get tired of doing the same thing, and you don't realize that instead of blaming the thing and getting bored with the thing, you blame the spouse, because you do that thing with the spouse all the time. You blame the spouse and you get bored with the spouse. And the problem is not with the spouse, not with your wife, not with your husband. The problem is you're tired of doing that thing, so do something else. A whole world of interesting halal things to do. So this is very, very important. Now, and he never. This is the fifth one. Do we have time for the fifth one? We have 5 minutes before Salah. Okay. Allah. If I go into this one, we won't do it justice. I don't want to delay the Salah past this time, 9:30. So in the interest of moderation, let's stop here. We're not going to do the fifth one. We're going to hold off, inshallah ta'ala. We did the first four. Next week, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, we'll start with the fifth one, inshallah ta'ala. And hopefully, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, we'll finish up next week. If for some reason we don't, we'll finish. Don't worry, I won't leave you mu'allaq, hanging. We'll finish up. I'll do my best, bi'idhnillah, but these things we require. So just really quickly, and hold on, in 1 minute, if I may, 1 minute, bi'idhnillah, let's just generally, quickly review the things that we want to be mindful of. Number one, going from what the First Lady said, accessibility. We want to be accessible to our spouses, and we want to be not only accessible but approachable to our spouses, and not be mountains in our homes. Two, we want to relate to our spouses and act in the home the way that we would like for people to speak about us. The way that we should envision what kind of husband do I want to be, what kind of wife do I want to be, and act like that. So think about the end, just like the akhirah. Think about our qabr. Think about our meeting with Allah Ta'ala. What kind of maut, what kind of death do we want? And act and work for that. Same thing. Similar concept. What kind of husband, what kind of spouse do we want to be? And work for that. And the last thing is moderation, both in the way we speak to each other, in the decisions we make. Don't be too hot, don't be too cold. Try not to get bored with each other, and try bit by bit to remove any behavior or things in the relationship or in the household that causes fear from one spouse to another. Moderation. In short, the way that you want Allah Ta'ala to deal with you, deal with others, deal with your spouse like that. And you don't want Allah Ta'ala to get too angry with you. You want Allah Ta'ala to be compassionate with you. You want Allah Ta'ala to continue to give gifts. You don't want Allah Ta'ala to ask you, my abd, why did you get bored with me, etc. and so forth. Those general things, generally speaking, keep those things in mind and model that kind of behavior in that relationship. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect all of us and our families. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.